we're still having this little battle between, what I'm going to call FOMO, MOMO, and NOMO. Basically, there's still this fear of missing out. We see here just the SPUs have bounced like 40 points since I've just been walked from there to here. And so people really don't want to miss what they see as a buying opportunity, because for the better part of the last few years, every dip has been a buying opportunity. This one, not so much. And I think a lot of what we see are active traders sort of wedded to that strategy, hoping this will pan out. And, and those moments where it does pan out, we see, people jumping right back in.
Right. So this notion of a retail buyer strike combined with a hedge fund momentum unwind, is that a fair framing at the moment?
To some extent, I would say our customers really range the gamut from small investors to large investors, and very heavily, the numbers I'm seeing are very heavily weighted toward active traders, because if I'm looking at activity numbers, it's going to be the most active customers. Those, one of my friends at the SIBO calls it pro-tail, because, they're sort of retail, but a bit more.
So what are they doing with tech, the heavily owned Mag 7 stocks?
As of the last time I checked the numbers this morning, they were still buying. Nvidia remains the most actively traded and the most actively bought stock on our platform, Tesla being number 2. These stocks brought them to the dance, and they're not abandoning them.
Was Friday a good example of that too? What do you think happened there Friday? Or was it about month end, something else?
I think Friday was month end. I think that close was for lack of a better word, phony as can be. But it shows you how the market, as soon as there's a buyable dip with any little bit of momentum, people jump on it. And it was probably no coincidence that it was month end, certainly the month end bargain hunting, but also no coincidence that it was a Friday where you had weekly option expiration, and of course the daily option.
What about the day part? First 2 hours of trading versus last 2 hours. Are you seeing evolution in that kind of behavior?
I don't have clarity into what our customers are doing in that, but what I see in terms of the market behavior, yes. I mean, I think this was the rare morning where we didn't wake up and see futures just grinding higher. Wake up and see them up 5 points and then see them up like 20 or 25 points by the time we get in, or sort of the market opens. And so there's been this grind higher because people are used to it. We didn't see that today because the news was overwhelming. We also sort of see the grind into the close, and that more or less depends on the character of the move. But we do still, even yesterday we saw a big bounce, relatively large bounce into the close, because it was the first of the month, and so presumably money flowed in.
I know you've got some thoughts on the VIX, which just hit 25.
Okay.
And whether or not that is a fair measure of fear at the moment or not.
My comment about that is VIX is not a fear gauge, but it plays one on TV. It's not specifically constructed to reflect fear, but of course it does reflect people's perceptions of volatility over the coming 30 days. That's what it's constructed to provide. And so yes, when things are moving around a lot, people then project that they will continue. So, but here when we see VIX around 25, roughly speaking, that's about a 1.5% daily volatility for the coming 30 days. And when we think about the movements we've seen over the past couple of days, when we think about the potential for a government shutdown, frankly, in less than a week and a half, is it wrong to think that we could get 1.5% daily moves on SPX? No. So I think it is reflecting more caution, not reflecting outright fear.
What about cash levels?
I don't have a ton of clarity into what our customer cash levels are, Sarah. I wish I could tell you.
But so then how do you describe sentiment overall? I know you talked about buying the dip. So is it overall optimistic?
It still remains. Again, when I checked sort of our top 25 list today, it was not just the names that I mentioned. People were buying triple Qs. People were buying SOX L, the triple SOX. There's still this love of leverage, and I think until you see that shaken out, where people are maximizing risk, at least active customers, active traders are maximizing risk, you're going to get this kind of grind back and forth. You haven't seen the full shakeout.
Right. Kind of like the leveraged home builder, the nail, right? That's been a tough lesson.
Yeah, so two things going on. One is that Elon Musk has made this hard pivot away from the autos business towards what he calls full self-driving, robo-taxis. That business is very speculative, right? It's not clear when it's going to start to make money, when it's going to start to be real. They do not have a robo-taxi yet. The other thing that's going on is his political sort of antics in Washington is starting to alienate parts of Tesla's customer base. You think of a typical Tesla driver, this is like upper middle class person who lives in the suburbs and cares about climate change. not necessarily likely to be impressed by like a, pot stirring social media troll. So I think there's some of that going on. You're seeing it more dramatically in Europe than in the US, but you are seeing it a little bit in the US too, it seems.
Yeah, he's lost, $90 billion year to date. Will Shaker in the control room looking at his wealth for us. $90 billion year to date, which still makes him an incredibly wealthy person. Does he really care that much?
Does he make some of it up on some of the other enterprises? He's getting Starlink deals with the relationship to the FAA.
So worth saying, at least I last checked, he's still up since the election. I mean, I think it's no longer this insane increase, probably between 10 and 20% or something. And as you say, he is doing well, he is still wealthy, and he does have these other venues to increase his net worth. We've seen SpaceX's valuation is actually coming up quite a bit because now it's a private company, so the dynamics aren't exactly the same, but there's a much clearer story of how does Elon Musk profit from his proximity to Trump. With Tesla, much less clear. I do think Elon Musk cares about Tesla's valuation, both because it's just who he is. He cares about the company, but also because he is not the most liquid person in the world. This stock is still an enormous part of how he's going to be able to finance other deals. If he wants to, start a seventh company, which you never know, he could do that or do a buyout or something. So he is going to care about this. It's just not clear, I'd say, how much.
We talk about Elon Musk as though he's been distracted just by politics, but to your point on other companies, I don't know if you saw the scoop this week that we had.
Of course I saw it. I work here.
Well, you were driving hogs.
I know. I had a green D, so yes, I look, that's not going to make up for the amount that he's lost at Tesla.
Look, the amount of influence and power.
I think the power is key, and that seems to be, what he is high, at least one of the things that he's high on right now. So in terms of his actual job, his main focus right now should be cutting U.S. government spending.
Is that his main job?
I think so, yeah. Isn't it? At the moment, he's in Washington every single day, right? He goes to the White House every single day. He's not in Fremont. So if his main job is cutting government spending, is he really going to be successful in that endeavor when right now he's just sort of angering federal workers, which makes such a small percentage of the budget?
I mean, look, I think there are things that Doge is doing that probably could be successful. It's just that when you're, as you say, Matt, like when you're going after the federal workforce, which is a very small part of the budget, plus, doing a lot of things where there's potential for litigation, for employees to be called back to work, for lots of ways in which this could sort of go sideways. The other thing I want to say is, as much as these companies are independent, their valuations are definitely linked. And you could, if Elon Musk, if Tesla falls dramatically, that could affect SpaceX's valuation because it also benefits from the Elon Musk aura, from the Elon Musk brand. All of these companies do, and we've seen all of their valuations go up, in the wake of the election. You could see the same trend in reverse. And I think ultimately, people talk about like what could drive Trump and Elon apart? Is Trump going to get so mad at Elon Musk? I think a more likely outcome would be Elon Musk decides that this is hurting his companies. And it hasn't yet, right? Because even with Tesla's, even with what's been going on today, the stock is still, relatively high, but it could, and you could see that lead to a political shift.